So this 1K 10 watt resistor gets extremely hot, you know, burn your finger hot. So I've ordered up a 15 watt version to go there. For the resistors that go across the that go after the rectifier, and these are 200s, so I've ordered up a 220K, I think it's 20 watt, just to be really sure. I've also ordered up some surge limiters, so I'm going to try putting a surge limiter in there as well. So some parts have arrived for the for the Schaub. So when ordering from Mauser, because the shipping is fairly expensive, I usually order way more stuff than I need on the basis that it'll always come in handy later. I ordered up a snips, which may help me on the scope project. We'll get to that in another video, because I may have a little showstopper there that I'm trying to figure out. So to replace the 1K resistor that gets really hot, and I'm not sure the one that serves at 10 watt, it says it is, but I'm not sure it is. Anyway, these are 15 watt, so we're going to stick one of those in, and then see where we go. Then to replace the two 100 ohm resistors, I got some 15 watt. These are also 15 watt, but they're much lower resistance, so obviously I guess it's more feasible to put them into a package this size. It says these are 15 watt, these are 220 ohm. So one of these will replace the two that are already in there, and then some. So we'll see how that goes. And a couple of surge protectors, a couple of thermistors, CL90s. And I put the CL90 in, and it made absolutely no difference whatsoever. And so I guess the theory is a little bit flawed, because the thermistor is working on the basis of current flow, and it limits the inrush current and all that sort of stuff. And so that would be very appropriate in the series string, but for the B+, the challenge is when you fire it up from cold, there is no current flow. And until the tubes start conducting, we got no current, and hence the voltage stays up there. Well guys, I'm tempted to leave this the way it is. I replaced the 200 watt resistors on the rectifier with the 220, and it seems to have helped just a little bit, but and I might leave the CL90 in there just as a precaution for later in case of power surges or something, but it sounds so good I don't want to mess with it anymore. Yeah, I think that's gonna be good enough. I think we're going to put this thing back together. Oh, and I fitted a Molex connector on the audio output transformer. They just make it so much easier putting it back in the cab. And since I intend to be using this radio, I may need to take it out from time to time and do some more maintenance. But looking good. So we're into the final cosmetic stuff now. So instead of just putting a rubber band on here like was here before, I decided to use some of this, it's a sort of a rubbery compound, but it has a dry non-stick surface to it. So I'm hoping it will have a much less tendency to stick to the back of the glass dial. So I just used a bit of spray glue to fix them on each side. And hopefully that won't be that part. I sort of rejigged the power supply so the dropper resistor after the rectifier, I fitted it here on the top where I'd get good heat dissipation. Unfortunately, I could only drill one hole because I didn't want to risk damaging the choke here. But it's securely held with one, and I just took a bit of heatsink compound on there just because I have a huge tube of it, and why not use it up. For the rest, I left the CL90 in there, and the rest is pretty much as is. And over here we have the big 15 watt 1K, the main new dropper at it. So yeah, I've replaced the grommets, the rubber grommets on the bottom. Oh yeah, I just have to put the glass dial back on, and there are little spring clips that hold it on here on each side. And yeah, that's going to be the nervous bit, because hopefully this is about the same thickness as the rubber band, and I won't be stressing the glass too much when I put that on. And of course I have to remake the light diffuser, that little paper thing, which is actually held in place by a string that goes sort of from corner to corner, and I think has a spring at one end, if I remember. I've been working on how to route the mains cable, because the way it routes at the moment is really pretty terrible. It's just got this metal thing around it grabbing it and you know, cutting the cable basically. So what I've done is I've taken the hole that was used to mount the rectifier, and I've just put a bit of aluminium stock on there with a hole in it to take the grommet, and I'll just stick a cable to either side to lock it down. So hopefully that'll do. I should get some black cable ties, but don't have any. Note to self. So there we go, new reproduction, fabric covered mains power cord, X-cap across the line in neutral, and clamped either side of the grommet, so that's not going anywhere. So I think that's it. Get it into the, do the paper light diffuser next. Okay, getting things back together. So I replaced the diffuser here with some regular paper. I did actually initially think I'd be real smart and use oven baking paper, but guess what? You can't find the scotch tape that'll stick to it. So I couldn't actually make that work. So I had to use regular non-oven stuff. So that I could actually fold it over and stick it together. So that's that on, and I've refitted the glass dial. So yep, getting ready to mate it all up with the cab. So here's the cab minus the speaker baffle. All I've done at the moment is I've gone over it with some hand cleaner. A little trick I copied from Bob Anderson, and it's very effective because the amount of black gunk that came off this, considering it looked clean to begin with, was kind of mildly scary. So the finish on this is far from perfect, but I'm thinking this is the type of set where these little defects in the finish will just be, if you like, patina, age, all that sort of stuff, and it's probably not worth spraying it. I could shoot a clear coat on it to seal it, because there's lots of hairline cracks in the finish, but since this radio is not going to be in a damp basement or anything anytime soon, and it's going to get properly looked after, I'd say the finish will be fine just as it is, and well, we'll live with the little defects. I had one accident. When I was polishing up, there was a tiny piece of veneer which wasn't secured, caught on the polishing paper and came off. However, I did find it before it fell on the floor and vanished into another dimension, so with a little bit of careful messing around I should be able to replace that. I don't know if you can see on the waterfall curve here, there are some cracks on the veneer, so I think I might just maybe wick some very thin super glue in there to seal them and stabilize them, but I don't want to go doing anything radical, because I think the strategy with this cabinet is going to be as little as possible. Luckily the logo came off without busting it, so I can polish that up and put it back on. The one disappointment is on the speaker baffle. This little metal vertical upright here that sits in the center, there were actually two of them, about I don't know, a few millimeters apart, and I only have one. So I can either modify this and put the one that I have in the middle, which is option A, or, I mean, this is a piece of metal, but my best bet would be to replicate one of these on a thin piece of hardwood and paint it gold. So I'll probably try that first, and if that looks like it's gonna work, we'll run with that. If not, then I think I'll just remove these pair of fixings at the top and bottom, put one in the center, and then just fix one running up the middle, and run with it like that. The speaker cloth is not hugely clean, but then it's not terribly dirty either, so my temptation again is to leave this as it is, because I'm sure if I attempt to clean it, you can see running up the right hand side where it was behind the frame, and that's more like the original color. But I'm sure if I do anything to try and clean this, I'll just make it worse. So apart from maybe running the vacuum cleaner over it, right now I don't plan to do anything else to this. So having done the hand cleaner, I'm going to let all this dry out for a while. Going to refit that tiny little bit of veneer that came off. And then I'll look at maybe putting a little bit of colored polish just to cover areas where the finish has come away or is gone, just to blend it in. But in general, I'm pretty happy with what it looks like at the moment, and all the paint came off, piece of cake. So yeah, Bob, thank you very much for that tip on the hand cream. Sorry, the hand cleaner. That worked a treat. These are the 4 screws that mounted the speaker board into the cab. They were very badly corroded, so a soak overnight in some evaporust, and they come up pretty much good as new. So these are, I guess, what you'd call the staples, and they go up inside the back of this little metal divider, and they were clearly sweated on with a little bit of solder or something, which over the years obviously came undone. I mean, this one came off really easily, and obviously the other one is gone sometime in the past. And there's 2 sets of them, and they're just sort of wire tied around the back, so I just snipped them and removed them. And then my plan is I'll glue them in here. Then my plan is I'll glue them into this and then refit them later on. Hopefully that'll work. I think I'll have a go at making something similar to this, either out of a piece of wood or a piece of stock aluminium, and then paint it. And if it looks like a huge thing, I might go back to plan B, which is to just remove these 2 sets of clips and just put one set in the center and then have one piece running up the middle like this. But I have a feeling that might irritate me every time I looked at the set, knowing there should be 2. So I'm going to have a shot at making one of these things, or some sort of an equivalent, before I give up. So I'm trying the hardwood method first, see how that goes. So before I go shaping the whole thing, I needed to see if I could replicate somehow the depression that runs up the middle here of the metal one. And this is probably still a little bit too deep, so I'll sand it down a bit. But I think it's going to be good enough that from a distance, when it's all painted, it's going to look reasonably okay. And the way what I've done here is basically use the 1mm down cut bit in the old Dremel with the shell inlay attachment set up on it, and yeah, I think this is good enough to carry on. So yeah, we'll keep going. Okay, here we go, almost there. The only complication I got here is obviously when I sand over the round corner on the end here, I lose my little groove, and which obviously carries around the curve on the metal one. Not sure what I'm going to do about that. I don't know if I have a rat tail file small enough that would do that. I might just leave it. I'm going to send it all up to 600 grit and see where we go. And yeah, okay, it fits in the cabinet properly. I had a look, so the dimensions are okay. Okay guys, well here we are. I think it's good enough to be getting on with. So for the original one, what I've done is I have glued the I made replacement staples, if you like, and I hot glued them into the frame. And then for the wooden one that I've just made, I drilled some tiny holes and epoxied them individual wires into the holes. So hopefully this will be good enough, at least for now, to be getting on with. So I'm gonna leave. It's the paint on this is about 2 or 3 hours old, so it's just barely gone off. So I'll leave these overnight, put the cab back together. So there we go. It's a little bit of a budge, but if you don't look at it too closely, I think it's going to be acceptable, at least for now. If I come up with a cleverer way of replicating the upright, I'll maybe incorporate it later, but I think we're good for now. What's kind of strange for me is I couldn't see any markings on the control knobs, and so I was kind of expecting to see a decal on the cab somewhere to say which is volume, you know, and so on and so on. But no sign of anything on any of the holes where the controls come through, so strange. Okay guys, here it is back in the cab. I'm pretty pleased with where the diffuser turned out, because it gives plenty of light all across, up and down. So yeah, that was a worked out okay. So there it is. I'm going to call this one done. I just have to make a slight tweak to the back so it'll fit on around where the mains cable comes out, and then we're done. I don't know if I'm going to leave the finish like this. I might just, if it irritates me too much, I might come back and just strip it all down and re-varnish it, because every time I see the little blemishes, it'll probably piss me off. But for now, we'll see how it goes. I think it's turned out reasonably well, and boy is it loud. And that's probably no more than 3/4 volume, so yeah, pleasantly surprised. Nice little project, this one. So thanks for all your help, guys, in getting this one back on its feet. I've already been listening to this chassis for hours out on the bench before I put it in the cab. I've played things like movie soundtracks through it, and even things like the Inception, which has got a lot of really strong orchestral bass stuff, and it reproduced it without a problem. So It's a shame YouTube won't let us share these types of experiences, but there you go. Right guys, I guess I'll be getting back to the scope because Mr. Mauser did deliver all those electrolytics quite a long time ago. So I need to get back to that now. So, that's it for now guys.
Unforgettable, that's what you are.